Today in Capechi's Corner, we're going to work with multiplying polynomials, and today is day 2. Let's take a look at what we did on the last lesson, multiplying by a monomial. So let's just remember, we're going to need to distribute this 3x in number 1. So this becomes 6x to the third. 3x times negative 5x gives us negative 15x to the second. And 3x times 3 gives us positive 9x. Remember, when we're multiplying by a negative number, we have to be careful with our signs. So we have negative 3m to the 9th times negative m to the second gives me positive 3m to the 11th. I distribute again, and I get negative 3m to the 12th. And then negative 3m to the 9th times negative 1 gives me positive 3m to the 9th. Now I'm just going to rewrite so I have my answer in standard form. So that gives me negative 3m to the 12th plus 3m to the 11th plus 3m to the 9th. In our new set of problems, we're going to multiply two binomials. And we have a special way called FOIL, which is a form of distribution. And what it stands for is the F in FOIL stands for our first term. So for instance, this x and this x are the first term of the given binomial. Then we're going to multiply our outside terms. So we're talking about the outside right there. And then the I stands for inside. This 8 and this x, they're going to be our inside. And then we're going to multiply our last terms, which right here are the last terms of each given binomial. So when we multiply this, this is what it looks like. My first term is x times x. My outside term in FOIL is x times negative 7. My inside term is 8 times x. And then my last term is 8 times negative 7. So x times x gives me x to the second. X times negative 7 gives me negative 7x. My inside is 8 times x, that gives me positive 8x. And my last 8 times negative 7 gives me negative 56. Now all I have to do at this point is combine my like terms, which is right there. So I have x to the second, negative 7x plus 8x gives me positive x. And then my last term is negative 56. So there's my final answer right there. Let's continue practicing our FOIL method when multiplying two binomials. So my first term is m times m. My outside term is m times 6. My inside term is negative 4 times m. And my last term is negative 4 times 6. So when I simplify, I have m squared plus 6m minus 4m and then minus 24. I combine my like terms. I have m to the second plus 2m minus 24, and there's my final answer. Let's look at number 2. With number 2, my first term is 5t times 5t, which gives me 25t squared. My outside term is 5t times negative 1, which gives me negative 5t. My inside term is negative 2 times 5t, which gives me negative 10t. And my last term is negative 2 times negative 1, which gives me positive 2. Now notice, I wrote out FOIL for FOIL to help me, but notice I did not do that other step that I had in number 1. You can kind of decide with your comfort when you can stop writing everything out. So when I combine my like terms, I get 25t squared minus 15t plus 2, which is my final answer. In number 3, my first term is x times 2x, which gives me 2x squared. My outside term is x times negative 4, which is negative 4x. My inside term is 7 times 2x, which gives me positive 14x. And my last is 7 times negative 4, which is negative 28. When I combine my like terms, I end up with 2x squared plus 10x minus 28, which is my final answer. Let's practice a few more just to make sure we're comfortable. So again, in using FOIL, 4d times 2d gives me 8d to the second. My outside terms, 4d times negative 5 gives me negative 20d. Inside, negative 2 times 2d gives me negative 4d. And my last, negative 2 times negative 5 gives me positive 10. When I combine my like terms, I have 8d to the second minus 24d plus 10. In number 5, my first term is 5y times 6y, which gives me 30y to the second. Outside I have 5y times 1, which gives me 5y. Inside, negative 3 times 6y gives me negative 18y. And last is negative 3 times 1, which is negative 3. Combine my terms, and I have 30y to the second minus 13y minus 3, which is my final answer. Now just remember, the only time you can use FOIL is when you're multiplying a binomial times a binomial. Now we're going to multiply a binomial by a trinomial, and again there's two methods. We could use the horizontal method or the vertical method. So it's just a big form of distributing. So I have a, which is my first term in my binomial, and I have to multiply all that by the trinomial. Then I'm going to take the second term in my binomial, 8, and multiply that all by the trinomial. So when I start to distribute, I get a times a squared, which is a to the third, a times negative a, which is negative a squared, a times negative 3, which is negative 3a. Moving on to the other set. 8 times a squared gives me 8a squared. 8 times negative a gives me negative 8a. 8 times negative 3 gives me negative 24. Now I just have to combine my like terms. So I have a to the third. Then I have negative a squared plus 8a squared gives me positive 7a squared. Negative 3a and negative 8a gives me negative 11a. And my constant is negative 24, and that's my final answer. Now I'm going to do the same problem using the vertical method. So when we're multiplying polynomials, I want to have the polynomial with the larger number of terms on top. Just makes things a little easier. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to take my 8, and I'm going to multiply that by negative 3, which gives me negative 24. 8 times negative a gives me negative 8a. And then again, I'm going to take my 8 times, as you can see, by each term in my trinomial, which is on top, and that gives me 8a to the second. I'm going to do the same thing with the other term in my binomial, the a times negative 3 gives me negative 3a. Now again, I'm going to combine my like terms eventually, so I want to line them up in columns. So my negative 3a goes with my other a to the first. A times negative a gives me negative a to the second. A times a to the second gives me a to the third. When I combine my like terms, I have a to the third plus 7a to the second minus 11a minus 24. Now this is my final answer, and it's the same answer you received when you multiply these polynomials using the horizontal method. Let's try another problem. So again, I'm going to take my first term, 3x to the second, times 2x minus 3, plus x times again 2x minus 3, and then minus 4 times 2x minus 3. So when using the horizontal method, I'm going to take each term in my first polynomial and multiply that by both terms in my second polynomial. So 3x squared times 2x gives me 6x to the third. 3x squared times negative 3 gives me negative 9x to the second. I distribute over here, so I get x times 2x gives me 2x to the second. X times negative 3 gives me negative 3x. And then I have negative 4 times 2x gives me negative 8x. And then negative 4 times 3 gives me positive 12. I'm going to combine my like terms. So I have 6x to the third, negative 9x to the second, and 2x to the second gives me negative 7x to the second. Negative 3x and negative 8 gives me negative 11x. And then plus 12, which is my final answer. Now we're going to practice the same problem using the vertical method. Notice I have the polynomial that has more terms written first. So I'm going to take negative 3 times negative 4 gives me positive 12. Negative 3 times x gives me negative 3x. Then I have negative 3 times 3x squared gives me negative 9x squared. Moving on to my 2x. 2x times negative 4 gives me negative 8x, and again I'm lining it up in columns with my like terms. 2x times x gives me positive 2x to the second. 2x times 3x squared gives me 6x to the third. Combine my like terms, I have 6x cubed minus 7x squared minus 11x plus 12, which is my final answer. And again, notice it's the same answer we have when we multiplied using the horizontal method.